Well, I want to introduce everybody to Miss Mary Whitney, and she is the author of Robbed of a Childhood, Raped by the System by Sunny Love, and it's an autobiography of an adult survivor of child abuse. And Mary, you also suffered domestic abuse as well.
Yeah.
And let me just give the listeners a little bit of background and history of between us. You live in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and I met you probably, I don't know if I was 16 or 17 years old. You married my first cousin and went on and had children with him, and then since then have been divorced and moved on. So I've known you for a long time, and I've watched you evolve in your relationships with men and in your coming to find your passion in life. And, you know, this is such a timely, when your book came out, of course, I immediately ordered it and read it. Robbed of a Childhood, Raped by the System. You know, this is an issue that domestic abuse and child abuse should be in the forefront all the time. Unfortunately, now we have Chris Brown and Rihanna making this issue larger than life. And I'm sure that's good for you because you can help more women. Tell us exactly why you wrote this book, number one.
Number one, I wrote the book because of the childhood sexual molestation I had went through from 6 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept all of those painful memories buried inside until one day you become sick and you begin to have what many call panic attacks, which I didn't understand why I'd find myself going to the window of my own home that I had lived in for 14 years in Savage, Minnesota, trying to figure out how to breathe.
Mm.
And that's one thing I didn't believe I'd ever forget how to do, and really didn't understand what was going on inside of me. I went to several doctors trying to figure out what was wrong. I kept saying, I don't really feel sick. I just really don't know what's going on with me, and I need to figure it out. And there were several doctors I had seen that tried to give me medications, and several of those pills, one kept me asleep 36 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
I never was awakened at that time, and then the next time I called the doctor and told him, I said, the pill kept me asleep 36 hours. No one in my family woke me up. He said, break it in half, and I broke it in half and found myself asleep for 16 hours, and here I am again, not understanding what's going on, and I called the doctor again. He said, break it in a fourth. I'm sorry, but I won't say what I said to him, but I didn't take any pills after that.
Well, and that's kind of something that doctors tend to do. If you really aren't able to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, people are just medicated. And we've heard Oprah talk about this a lot on her show because she was abused. And you can get weight problems, and you don't have a weight problem, but you can develop weight problems. You can go the opposite. You were very thin. So how did you finally get to the root of this? Did you remember, because you were so young, did you finally remember through the help of a therapist or a counselor?
No, for me, I had never forgotten the memories.
Okay, so
they were always embedded inside of me. I just never talked of those memories. I remember when my mother died when I was 11 years old, and my father came from Indiana to pick me up and bring me to live with them from Tennessee. I was angry and filled with rage and didn't really understand how my mother had abandoned me. In my childish mind at that time, I thought it was abandonment, not her dying and leaving me. And when my father picked me up, me and my brother, not understanding that I had 6 other brothers and sisters that would be left behind that would be candidates of the molestation that I had endured at the hands of my own stepbrothers, too.
Do you have a decorating dilemma? I can help. Pick up my book, Ask Mi-Ling When You Want the Truth About Decorating, or visit ComfortZoneRadio.com. Okay. I'm going to read an excerpt from your book. It says, I was determined not to let anyone get too close to me. I had learned the hard way not to let anyone get close, or they would try to harm me. Never trust anyone but yourself and the good Lord up above, because my motto each day I prayed to God that he keep me in his arms until I met my mom in heaven. Wow. So all of this pain that you experienced as a child, I'm assuming, and I know this for a fact, kind of trickled down into your adult life, correct?
Yes, it
Into
did.
your relationships, into probably even raising your own children. So after you came to the realization what happened and you got some help, okay, we're going to fast forward a little bit. And I'm sure writing the book was a very good healing process for you to kind of help you come to terms with exactly what happened. Am I right?
Yes, it did.
Okay. How did you turn the anger into something positive?
What I need to share with the audience and you
Mm-hmm.
is that it doesn't just happen overnight. It took years and years of becoming an advocate for those in domestic violence situations themselves.
Mm-hmm.
2 years of being an advocate for those in domestic violence before I gave my first presentation, because we have to learn how to dissect ourselves and rid ourselves of the anger that's within, because if you're that advocate going out to help someone else understand their condition, you can't carry that rage and that bitterness and that anger with you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to share with them how you arrived at the point of letting go.
Right. And so as a young child, 5 years old from your memory, you were abused. Then you went into more abusive relationships with men, correct?
Yes.
And your self-esteem was just chipped away even more and more and more, which is part of this whole issue that some say allegedly Chris Brown, beat Rihanna. And a lot of women are telling her to get out, because men do not change. We know that men do change. Some men do change. But what advice do you have? Because you were in several relationships, right, where you
Yes.
were abused. What advice would you give? Because we know that, 1 in 11 young teenagers are in abusive relationships. Is it 1 in 5 women have know someone who's being abused?
Well, the statistics that I give is 98% of the women have been abused at some point in their life. So to me, that's 2% that goes unscathed.
Wow.
And 5% of the men.
And let me just add that there is, if you are a man that's listening, there is an organization called menstoppingviolence.org that you can go to get help for yourself. menstoppingviolence.org. And for any women out there listening or anyone else, National Domestic Violence Hotline. Let's give that number, Mary. It's 1-800-799-SAFE or 7233. 1-800-799-SAFE or 7233. Or you can go to the ndvh.org, which is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Another important line is for our teens out there, National Teen Dating Abuse Line. You can go to loveisrespect.org. Loveisrespect.org for teens. The positive, wonderful organization that came out of it is Women Planting Seeds.
Yes, it is.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
We work with men, women, and youth exiting correctional institutions. We provide self-esteem and healthy relationships trainings, because we understood that we can refer a person to a job or we can refer them to resources, but if you truly don't understand how to connect with those resources and how to talk about what you learned during the course of your incarceration, you're really not going to keep that job very long.
And your website is womenplantingseeds.org, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What are some of the signs that women who are in relationships, and we all know somebody who is being abused? It may not be physically, it could be emotionally, it could be a husband trying to control the finances too much. That's a sign of abuse as well.
Well, I don't think a lot of us knew those were unhealthy signs, because my husband controlled the checkbook too for 14 years when we were living in Savage.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying is financial abuse, be it him controlling the checkbook and you don't have money, you have to go to them and ask them for money. And it could be the same thing, the female controlling the checkbook and the male having to come for her for every dime that he gets.
Right.
You know?
Goes both
So
ways. Door swings both ways.
it swings both ways. And I'm one of those women who have learned not to be a blamer or a shamer because we can do that to ourselves. I'm one of those that's realistic because I started out as a victim, and then we too, with our mouth and our tongues, can become what many would say is a perpetrator too, because that's emotional abuse. You cussing someone out, calling them out their names and those kinds of things. But we had to understand where the rage was coming from that was bubbling up inside of us too.
Right.
How do we alleviate those issues within oneself and truly engage in good conversation?
Now, if someone is out there listening, I also want to mention again, Mary, that they can go for teenagers, loveisrespect.org, male or female, teen dating abuse. National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE or 1-800-799-7233. And then menstoppingviolence.org. Okay, and some of a lot of women are trapped in a situation. I grew up in a home where my father was an alcoholic, and that's something that you don't get over as a child. Once they divorced and he stopped drinking, he was just a totally different person. You know, so I know that people can be redeemed. For a woman out there or a man who's in a situation, how do they get help? What's the first step?
The first step to me is to begin to talk about it to someone. And I know a lot of times that's hard to say for people and hard to do. But what I want to say is this. We can journal. We can just talk to ourselves. We can go to our spiritual father, you know, Father Earth, Mother Earth, Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever people go to for help. I go to Jesus. And a lot of times in trainings and different things like that we're doing, I can't say go to Jesus, but I can say each and every one of us know when something is not comfortable with us, that is bubbling up telling you there's a sign that something is going on. If I can't talk to my mate or my partner or my husband or my wife and have a good conversation without fighting, something definitely is wrong.
We want everybody to get Mary's book, Robbed of a Childhood Raped by the System. I will tell you, it's not for the faint heart. It is a very graphic book. It will draw you in. I read it in 24 hours. I mean, it's a wonderful book for someone who is either wanting to learn more about child abuse or domestic abuse, and also for just some basic knowledge on the issue. Mary, let's talk about how, again, people can get out of a relationship and how they can heal.
How I say is this: you have to create a plan, and sometimes the person cannot know about that plan you're creating, packing a bag, taking it to a friend's house, leaving sign words that you would say to someone that's happening. But we can't tell people to just leave a partner or a mate, because if we say that and that individual straightens up after we tell them to just leave, then we're blamed for the breakup. So no one is going to leave a relationship that they feel is healthy for them until they understand what unhealthy boundaries, unhealthy relationships entail. If you're intimidated, isolated, coerced, you know, and caused to do something out of your comfort zone, look at the signs. No, we're not just passing time when you begin to feel you're ready for a change.
Right. Thank you, Mary, so much. This is Mi-Ling's Comfort Zone. Go to comfortzoneradio.com for more information.
Mi-Ling's Comfort Zone. Mi-Ling's Comfort Zone. Live life like you want it to be. Come visit me in the comfort